Hi, I'm Ahmed Devise, coach and founder of Agile 7, a coaching practice where I help people face uncertainty with confidence. Today, I want to share a really interesting gem I found recently. So, I was attending this election watch party, part of it, with the Human Systems Dynamic Institute, which is an amazing institute that I am part of, um, deals with complexity as a field of study about interactions, human dynamics, and inquiries, and really brings out things that are very suitable for the world that we live in now. So, in that party, one of our members shared a Sufi folk tale. And I got really excited because I said, well, those are my people. And who else wants to know more about the source and the definitions and the lessons that go in there? So, uh, for those who may want to stick around this video longer, I will read a section of a book from Idries Shah called The Tales of the Dervishes. But for the rest, I will give you the lesson up front if you want to jump off in a minute or so. And the lesson is that before you teach anybody, before you do any change work, before you do any sort of learning engagement, you have to create the circumstances for learning. You have to create the desire for learning. It just doesn't happen, and you'll find variations and layers of lessons in that story, where learning kind of gets clogged and blocked by many reasons. So, without further ado, the book I will be reading from is called Tales of the Dervishes from Idries Shah, and the story is Nour and the Fire, or the Story of Fire. So, what I'll do is I'll read through the passage, and I'll open up my Kindle so that you can also see the text as background. But essentially, I do recommend this book of stories from different sheikhs, the different Sufi masters of the past, and a lot of lessons for us to learn, especially in this highly polarized climate that feels like if you're from one side, you're just going to stay with that side forever. Your ears are closed. You're not able to tolerate anybody else, and it's just like it's difficult to for people who have already digged their heels in to ever come to terms and see the other side and come to a place where the need to unite is even more than ever before. So, all right, so that was the lesson. Essentially, from that lesson, which comes from Shaykh Ahmed el-Bedavi, is that before you start teaching, you have to build the capacity to teach. You have to show learning, and there's lessons, and you'll see this Sufi folktale will share many of those lessons. So I am going to switch my screen over to Kindle, where I'm going to read the book. So the story of fire. Once upon a time, a man was contemplating the ways in which nature operates, and he discovered, because of his concentration and application, how fire could be made. This man was called Noor. He decided to travel from one community to another, showing people his discovery. Noor passed the secret to many groups of people. Some took advantage of the knowledge, others drove him away, thinking he must be dangerous. Before they had time to understand how valuable this discovery could be to them. Finally, a tribe before which he demonstrated became so panic stricken that they set about him and killed him, being convinced that he was a demon. Centuries passed. The first tribe, which had learned about fire, reserved the secret for their priests, who remained in affluence and power while the people froze. The second tribe forgot the art and worshipped instead the instruments. The third worshipped a likeness of Noor himself, because it was he who had taught them. The fourth retained the story of the making of fire in their legends. Some believed them, some did not. The fifth community really did use fire, and this enabled them to be warmed, to cook their food, and to manufacture all kinds of useful articles. After many years, a wise man and a small band of his disciples were traveling through the lands of these tribes. The disciples were amazed at the variety of rituals which they encountered, and one and all said to their teacher, "But all these procedures are in fact related to the people of fire, nothing else. We should reform these people." The teacher said, "Very well, then, we shall restart our journey. By the end of it, those who survive will know the real problems and how to approach them." When they reached the first tribe, the band was hospitably received. The priests invited the travelers to attend their religious ceremony, the making of fire. When it was over and the tribe was in a state of excitement at the event which they had witnessed, the master said, "Does anyone wish to speak?" The first disciple said, "In the cause of truth, I feel myself constrained to say something to these people." "If you will do so at your own risk, you may do so," said the master. Now the disciple stepped forward in the presence of the tribal chief and his priests and said, "I can perform the miracle which you take to be a special manifestation of deity. If I do so, will you accept that you have been in error for so many years?" But the priests cried, "Seize him!" And the man was taken away, never to be seen again. The travelers went to the next territory, where the second tribe was worshipping the instruments of fire making. Again, a disciple volunteered to try to bring reason to the community. With the permission of the master, he said, "I beg permission to speak to you as reasonable people. You are worshipping the means whereby something may be done, not even the thing itself. Thus, you are suspending the advent of its usefulness. I know the reality that lies at the basis of this ceremony." This tribe was composed of more reasonable people, but they said to the disciple, "You are welcome as a traveler and stranger in our midst. But as stranger foreign to our history and customs, you cannot understand what we are doing. You make a mistake. Perhaps even you are trying to take away or alter our religion. We therefore decline to listen to you." The travelers moved on. When they arrived in the land of the third tribe, they found before every dwelling an idol representing Nour, the original fire maker. The third disciple addressed the chiefs of the tribe. "This idol represents a man who represents a capacity which can be used." "This may be so," answered the Noor worshippers, "but the penetration of the real secret is only for the few. It is only for the few who will understand, not for those who refuse to face certain facts," said the third disciple. "This is rank heresy, and from a man who does not even speak our language correctly, and is not a priest ordained in our faith," muttered the priests, and he could make no headway. The band continued their journey and arrived in the land of the fourth tribe. Now a fourth disciple stepped forward in the assembly of the people. "The story of making fire is true, and I know how it may be done," he said. Confusion broke out within the tribe. We split into various factions. Some said, "This may be true, and if it is, we want to find out how to make fire." When these people were examined by the master and his followers, however, it was found that most of them were anxious to use fire making for personal advantage and did not realize that it was something for human progress. So deep had the distorted legends penetrated into the minds of most people that those who thought that they might in fact represent truth were often unbalanced ones who could not have made fire even if they had been shown how. There was another faction who said, "Of course the legends are not true. This man is just trying to fool us to make a place for himself here." And a further faction said, "We prefer the legends as they are, for they are the very motor of our cohesion. If we abandon them and we find that this new interpretation is useless, what will become of our community then? And there were other points of view as well. So the party traveled on until they reached the lands of the fifth community, where fire making was a commonplace and where other preoccupations faced them. The master said to his disciples, "You have to learn how to teach, for man does not want to be taught. First of all, you will have to teach people how to learn. And before that, you have to teach them that there is still something to be learned. They imagine that they are ready to learn, but they want to learn what they imagine is to be learned, not what they have first to learn. When you have learned all this, then you can devise the way to teach. Knowledge without special capacity to teach is not the same as knowledge and capacity." So I wanted to say that that last passage is worth reading 10 times until you can really absorb it. So um, that was kind of the book reading. I encourage you to read the story by yourself and try to reflect on it. What happens when we try to be in the convincing business? How does it go? How successful you are? Do you promise them something that is not even yours to give? To them, do you give them something that is not even true? And people tend to project what they want to believe onto you. And maybe you could be a great salesman, but with change work, with transformation work, with any work that is related to humans, it is important to build, it's understand that all these parts, the whole and the greater whole, they have their own significance. And not all the parts will create the whole without understanding the interplay between them. So that is all I wanted to share with you today. Hope you find it valuable. And if you do, please share with others or have a discussion with your team. And do subscribe to my newsletter at agile-7.com. And that is all from me. Have a wonderful evening, morning, the rest of the day, rest of the weekend, and stay wonderful. Have a good one.